Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio, it's time for the Gnfcc 400 Insider. Connect, build, and grow with the Greater North Fulton Chamber of Commerce.
Hello and welcome to the Gnfcc 400 Insider, the monthly radio show and podcast presented by the Greater North Fulton Chamber. I'm Kali Boatright, President and CEO of the Chamber, and today we are joined by two incredible individuals who were both recently recognized with the Chamber's North Fulton Regional Awards. Please welcome Lifetime Achievement Award winner Ken Davis with Renasant Bank and Citizen of the Year Community Service Award winner Jack Murphy with the North Fulton Improvement Network. Gentlemen, congratulations and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kali.
We're glad to have you, and certainly congratulations are in order. You are both folks that I have had the honor of working with in my 7 years up at the Chamber, and I got to tell you, I was delighted when you applied and even more delighted when the volunteer committee selected you guys. You are an honor to have. It's an honor to have you on the show here, and I can't wait to talk to you today about all of your incredible contributions to the community. And we're going to start the easy way, which is by having you just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about you. Ken, as the Lifetime Achievement Award winner, I'm going to start with you.
Well, thank you, Kali. For the last 14 years, I've been with Renasant Bank as a regional president, running both a commercial lending and retail branch operations for the bank. Prior to that, I was with different financial institutions here in North Fulton.
You have been in North Fulton for a long time and much appreciated for everything that you've brought here. Jack, what about you?
We've lived here about 30 years. 22 of those I've been with the the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce. And probably about 15 years ago, started working with what at that time was called the North Fulton Poverty Task Force.
Yes.
Which is now the North Fulton Improvement Network.
And appreciate both of you being here in North Fulton and allowing us to talk a little bit about your impact beyond just the professional sphere. As you mentioned, both of you have had long service in your careers, but what about the roles that you have taken on in civic and community leadership? And I'm going to ask Ken, if you'll start by sharing just some of the positions that you've held or initiatives that you've supported that you're especially proud of on the service side. I know that you have a long, distinguished 40-year history in banking, but how about all the feels on the community side?
There are two initiatives, Kali, I would say, that I can think of. And one is connected with the North Fulton Chamber, and the other is with the Roswell Economic Development Incorporated, which is that public-private partnership in the city of Roswell. There's both for economic development and tourism.
Yeah.
While serving as an executive committee member on those organizations, I was part of a smaller group that was challenged with identifying and selecting individuals to serve as the executive directors to replace long-time serving and very successful executive directors. The current executive directors either retired or moved on to other organizations. It was a thorough and time-consuming process, yet very rewarding, because the individuals we selected and the group selected have taken their respective organizations to new heights. It's nice to see how well these individuals have done in their respective roles. And I would say that if you were not.
That's unfair. I'm sitting right across from you.
I know, but it's true.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this guy hired me. Ken was part of the search committee when I was hired 7 years ago, and it was a very long, time-consuming process, but it was a great way to get to know you and, of course, other board members at the time. You had been chair several years before that.
Correct.
And remain and continue to remain involved in the chamber even now, which is good, right?
Yeah. It's a good organization to be involved in, of course.
I appreciate it. And the other person you are referring to, of course, my friend Andy Williams. Yep. And Andy also has done an amazing job. And
he's taken that organization to a whole different level for the city of Roswell.
I agree. Yeah, he's a great guy. Thank you. All right, Jack. How about you?
When I first actually started working for the downtown chamber, I joined the Alpharetta Rotary to try to get to meet business leaders here, and it really did enjoy that. But I decided I wanted to do that volunteer part of my life in a more faith-related way. So I got involved with an organization called St. Vincent de Paul, which is a 200-year-old international organization that nobody's ever heard of, that was founded by a French student who was challenged in his faith. You're great at prayer, but what do you do? How do you help people? And so we're an organization that when folks are in financial need, we go into their homes and listen to their stories, not trying to convert them, just trying to help them. So we pay rent or whatever they need. That spun off into, as I mentioned, the North Fulton Poverty Task Force, which was a group of business and faith leaders, community leaders, who were asked by the Roswell Police Department to get the guy that's pushing the shopping cart off the streets.
Yep.
Now, that guy's still there because he does not want to be housed, and you can't make him be housed. But we've morphed that into now the North Fulton Improvement Network under the idea that not enough people really believe that there's poverty here. There is poverty in North Fulton, but it's hidden. It's tucked away in apartment complexes and that kind of thing. So now we're working to advocate for what we call workforce housing, middle-income housing. We think that one of the biggest contributors to the school closing in Sandy Springs is the fact that young couples can't afford to live in North Fulton. We have for years said, well, we have workforce housing, but it's in Forsyth or some other county, and people have been commuting in. We have tolerated the road congestion, but that's not a long-term solution because we think people, teachers, firefighters, police, we want them to live in our community because they're desirable. Those are some of the things that I'm involved with.
And so with St. Vincent de Paul obviously being the hands and feet to serve, and then moving from there to inspiring others to work and to understand the data, because data doesn't lie. So that's interesting that you've had the opportunity to work on both sides of that, being the hands and feet and now explaining to others what they need to know to do the same.
Exactly.
Very interesting. You guys have both been obviously incredibly active with organizations all over North Fulton, so much so that, Ken, if I remember correctly, when you received the award, my chairman of the board, Dean Collins, was reading your introduction. And as he was going through all of the community work that you've done, he mentioned that in addition to all of those things, you actually do hold a full-time job. Everybody really enjoyed, of course, that. But Jack, you're in the boat right alongside Ken, being community-minded outside of your professional scope. So a lot of folks may put a toe in the water and get engaged in something that while their kids are young or that they have a passion for, but for you all, you seem to have made this a lifestyle choice. It's not like it's one and done. You continue to be actively engaged in North Fulton to be able to make a difference. And that's, in my opinion, what really makes you stand apart. I would love to hear from both of you. And Jack, I'm going to start with you first. As the Community Service Award winner, what point in your career did you felt led to do this? Like, where were you, age, career? You don't have to share your age, but that you got involved. Why were you called to that service and when?
It's something I've always done in some form or another. And when I first started working with the chamber, there's a lot of encouragement to improve quality of life. As chamber, that's one of the goals of every chamber is economic development, which usually includes quality of life.
Right.
And I was encouraged to get involved in my community, even though it's 23 miles from downtown Atlanta. And I did that. And I found it very rewarding. I found a lot of folks were surprised that somebody would work downtown and live up here, but it was just something I always wanted to do. And the chamber allowed me the opportunity to do that.
And let's be honest, Metro Atlanta has expanded now well beyond the point of Alpharetta, right? When you talk about Metro Atlanta, you're talking about almost the top half of the state. Right. It's really expanded. Certainly we fall within that category now, but I know when you and I first met, when I came to work here, you reached out to me. And of course, living up here and working downtown with another chamber, it was great to sit down and just get some of your perspective on what was going on. And I indeed was very surprised, since you worked at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, all you were doing here at North Fulton, which shouldn't surprise me because you live here.
And the chamber's always been open to that.
All right.
I served on your education committee years ago. In fact, that's how I met the headmaster next door of the Amana Academy.
Yes.
And I was on their board for 3 years. So it's a great way to serve.
Indeed.
While you're also working on economic development.
I'm delighted that the Chamber was such a good connector in that respect for you and able to keep you engaged in a number of different things. How about you, Ken? Where were you in life when you decided, hey?
I had parents that set a great example for me. The things they did for their communities and their church really resonated with me. So after college, a short stint with Uncle Sam, I moved back here to Atlanta and started to work for a financial institution. And I've been in that. I've tried to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, but I hadn't figured it out yet. But it's been good to me so far. Each bank I join, they have a culture of giving back to the community in which we serve. And that's paired up with exactly how I think and like to operate. And so it's easy for me to have been involved in different organizations. As Jack said, you want to give back to those that are less fortunate, and that group that's you don't think is here but really is here. So
and they are.
Right.
Absolutely. And I can still see that today, Ken. I appreciate the fact that you haven't decided what you want to do when you grow up, but you're doing a heck of a job as a president of the bank, I got to tell you. Again, in the time that I've known you and the culture that you've established at Renasant Bank, not just the bank being engaged as a partner with the community in so many different ways with so many different organizations, including the Chamber, but also you personally engaging and encouraging your employees to do the same. I don't think it stops with just you. I think you model the behavior, but I think there is a level of expectation at Renasant Bank that happens, right?
It's part of the culture.
I think so.
And I think what makes banking and our bank fun because we're able to give back.
It's a way of life at some point, becomes one for all of us.
Ken was he was our first donor to our 2019 summit that kicked off what the North Fulton Improvement Network was all about. And he continues to lend employees to help us on our committees.
It's easy to get behind a good cause and help them be successful. So your leadership is what makes the difference, Jack.
And the irony there is I was at that 2019 event that was the first year of me being up here. I started in 18, but I still remember being there and learning so much about that because with all due respect, when you're outside of this region, I think this region does have a perception as that golden area, which it is. It's a lovely area. It's safe. It's well educated. It's certainly wealthy. It has all of those things, but that doesn't mitigate all of the things that also occur. And at that time, we were talking a lot of mental health issues, right? And other issues that really can derail someone who's trying to be able to survive in a positive way. And of course, that's morphed over time to really focus on making sure that we have accessible housing. I mean, my word, I know you use workforce housing, I use accessible housing, but I think that's been truly, I've watched the evolution, if you will, over that time. So I think that's really interesting. I know that both of you in your careers have been recognized, not just by us, although we like to think this is your favorite. You don't have to tell me if it is, I'll just assume. But I know that there are other past awards or honors that you've received that have really meant things to you, especially tied to your community service or civic engagement. And Ken, I'm going to swing back to you. Any that really stand out over your career, awards that you've received that really just stand out?
Kali, I'm not one to promote from an award perspective, but I will share that there was no award or recognition given, but I really enjoyed serving time with the North Metro Miracle League Board of Directors.
Oh, what a great organization. Talk a little bit about that.
It's an organization focused on providing opportunities for adaptive sports for children with disabilities. John McLaughlin founded it years ago.
One of our award winners as well. Yes, Lifetime Achievement.
And it came from the heart from where John founded that, and that's grown over the years. I had the privilege of serving on that board and making some of those things happen. So it was really rewarding because you got to see other not as fortunate to enjoy some of the things that I may take and others may take for granted in life. So it's just nice seeing those things come about and those organizations that have the heart to do that.
And our Leadership North Fulton class supported a fundraiser for Miracle League years and years ago and continue. Carl Black and Alan Barker, a number of folks who really continue to champion that. I was at their, anniversary event this year. which was really special. So what a great organization, though. I'm glad you brought that up. How about you, Jack?
As Ken says, it's weird to think about honors. Gotten recognition from organizations I've worked with. Like
Sure.
Rookie of the Year at Alpharetta Rotary, or the regional teacher in Keller Graduate School of the Year. But honestly, not just because you're sitting across the table from me, this has been, I think, an extremely humbling honor, because this is not an organization that I've worked with. Obviously, you and I work together a lot.
Of course.
We talk about different aspects that we can help each other. But this idea that the community saw what the North Fulton Improvement Network is doing and recognizing that's the way I think of this award. To me, that's very gratifying to know that the community values what we're doing, and we find it very encouraging.
Y'all are doing amazing work, and I concur, but also there's leadership involved in that too. So, ladies and gentlemen, these two gentlemen are not just great community leaders and folks to have in North Fulton, but they're both very humble. So I know some of these questions are really hard for you guys to answer, but I know I appreciate hearing about not just your current day, but also the past and some of the things that have happened through your community service over the past years. Ken, with a 40-year career, that's correct, 40 years in banking. I know I keep bringing it up, don't I? You're welcome. With a 40-year career in banking, you have seen a lot of change, and really this is focused more on your career there, but leading through change is never easy. Can you think about a challenge, and I can think of many in banking over the last 20 years even, looking back, maybe one challenge that really tested you as a leader and how you worked through that?
I think in the short tenure at Renasant Bank of 14 years, we've had 3 bank mergers here locally. As a company, we've had more, but trying to meld 2 banks together, both operationally and culturally, is always a challenge. You got to draw on your past experiences, have an open mind to different ways to do things. Then you really got to be a good listener and continue and constantly have two-way communication. Those are the best ways to ensure success with any kind of challenge, but more importantly, serving the customer and just changing the process. There's going to be change and disruption, so we got to talk through it and plan ahead, but the communication is probably the most critical part through any change.
And what I love the most about you quoting communication, but what you said specifically was listening. And we forget so much. I do. But many of us will forget the part where we stop and we listen. And so I think that's interesting as you're trying to meld 2 distinct cultures or different organizations together, being able to listen and appreciate everybody's different perspective, because I would imagine everyone has a different perspective, even within a same organization. Now you're merging 2. Yeah.
A lot of A-type personalities involved.
What? Yes. So. Yes. I would imagine that there are. That would be a challenge in doing it 3 times. The good news is by now you've got great experience doing this.
I have a great experience, but I've also surrounded myself by a good team, and that's another key to success, and empower them or challenge them to help in that cause.
That's a great one. Yeah, hiring well is definitely an admirable skill set. Jack, what about you? If you can look back over your many years, what would you say was the biggest challenge that you had as a leader?
It's always, I spent some time as director of change management for an organization, and I really did learn there that change happens at the speed of trust, to use somebody else's line. There's actually books on it.
Yep.
And so to get that trust, you've got to spend a lot of time, in our case, going into the community, giving facts out, not trying to get people annoyed. Our organization is not, our advocacy is meant to be, we'll shake your hand and talk to you about it. And if you don't agree with us, that's fine. But it's making sure that you're getting as many people involved as you can, helping them understand the issues. And this is true in corporate environments as well as in community environments. If an organization doesn't have trust, they're not going to get very far in getting their message out or winning customers.
And I think that's another great Jack. I think that was Jack Welch, if I'm not mistaken, who I'm trying to remember the quote. It's a great quote. I've heard it many times and it's definitely true. 100%. We've talked about your history and the great legacy that your being here in North Fulton has given us, but let's talk about the future of North Fulton. And Jack, I'm going to start with you first. What excites you the most about what's next for your organization, for the region, for you?
What's exciting to me is that more folks are starting to talk about housing and whether it's attainable or affordable or workforce. People are talking about it. And they're starting to understand that maybe 45 or 2-hour commutes to work coming from other counties might not be what is best for everybody. And they're starting to realize that there's a connection between teachers not getting hired, bus drivers not being available, and the places where they can live. The reason we're focusing on those middle income jobs, those professional jobs, is because they're available in every community.
That's right.
And so assuming that somebody will drive in from Hall County every day to take care of kids in school, they do because they love their jobs.
That's right.
But we think we'll have a better opportunity if we can get more places for them to live closer to their job. And we're seeing a lot of folks starting to talk about that.
As the wife of a teacher, I certainly appreciate your comments around that and understand that. I think it happens, and I know you work with a lot of the nurses too, and in nursing, when you have to pass by a couple of hospitals to get where you're going and you're stuck in traffic, you got a moment to reflect and consider what your options are, which as a chamber, it's important to me that we're well-staffed and that we have a great pipeline of exceptional talent here in North Fulton. So I certainly don't want that to happen with our great hospitals and our great healthcare. So I hear you.
I'm glad you mentioned healthcare because I learned through this process that emergency room personnel have to live 30 minutes from the emergency room. That seems important to me.
It does.
If I'm in the emergency room, I'd like to have it be fully staffed. And I was driving down Rucker Road the other day, and there was a little sign on the side of the road for NICU nurses.
Oh, wow.
The toughest, I think, job in a hospital is
Indeed.
helping infants. And if we're having to advertise on roadsides, that's a challenge.
Yeah. I think part of this, and especially the commute time and people being more introspective about the balance in their lives and where they're spending the time, I think of the many things that came out of COVID, whether good or bad, I think that's one that stays with us over the long term, right? Are we willing to do that? And so I agree. I think that's a major thing. So that's a good one, Ken. No pressure now.
I'll tell you, Jack sets a high bar.
So in thinking about the future, what's next for you, for your organization, for the region? What do you see?
I'm excited to be a part of the North Fulton Community Charities, as Kali, as they're expanding their services from their current location on Elkins Road to the east side of Roswell. Jack, in addition to having housing challenges, there's certainly a food insecurity in North Fulton, and North Fulton Community Charities has addressed that for many years. And this year they are partnering with the Bridge to Grace Church to build a garden and start offering fresh vegetables and a food pantry service and services there at the Bridge to Grace Church. It's coming. I think this past weekend they had the gardens built by North Fulton. We're
Great.
all connected.
We
right?
are all connected. We're better together for sure.
But that's going to be a great addition for the east side and to expand the services and really meet a need that's out there in our community.
And I love that because it just combined the two conversations we were having, right? People don't want to have to drive to work, but think about if you are food insecure and you need help with that and are getting to North Fulton Community Charities to be able to take advantage of the food bank and the fresh vegetables and fruits that are offered there as well. And if you don't have transportation, gosh, now there's a different location and potentially more in the future. So I love the divestiture of just one location into multiple locations. It's really...
It'd be exciting to watch.
It really is. I think so too. That's a really good one. All right. Final question, gentlemen. When I talk to leaders like yourselves who have impacted the community so greatly, both in your careers and in your personal choices, the time that you've spent in community service, I get asked, and I have people ask a lot, how they can do that. What's the first step? How do they get involved? So with that in mind, and thinking about those of us who are new, for me, 7 years, North Fulton residents listening to this now, What's one piece of advice that you wish you had heard earlier? So great advice that you have now that you wish you'd heard earlier in your career or when you were first getting plugged into your community.
I will say, I don't know that I heard this, but my advice would be, don't look or wait for the exact opportunity to jump in. I joined several organizations when I first got out of the Army, enjoyed the time there, tried to make a difference, but it just didn't work out. And the organization continued without my involvement, certainly. But I was able to find several that it just connected. And so I would tell anybody, jump in, try it. If you want to be in a different way, go that route. But if you wait, you're going to miss out on a lot. And not only will you individually learn from it, but you will also be benefiting that organization, believe it or not.
That's a great lesson learned. Yeah, there's never a perfect time. So you got to try and start when you're ready. Also, thank you for your service. I appreciate it very much. Absolutely. All right, Jack, your piece of advice, something you wish you'd learned earlier in your career that you would like to bestow upon us.
For me, somebody asked a question once at a meeting. What didn't you learn in your MBA program that you should have learned? And the answer was empathy.
Oh,
nobody talks about empathy in business schools, and that took me a long time to learn. That I thought my volunteer life and my business life needed to be separate, but they don't. There's no reason for that. If you're a person of faith or you're a person of empathy, you're going to want to join an organization like Ken just described and get involved. And so that's something that has served me well since I learned it.
Yeah, I think for me, and in line with that is that great quote from Spider-Man.
From Jack Welch to Spider-Man.
I have a vast collection of voices in my head that I am able to access. But in this particular instance, yes, his uncle, when he is saying, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I think that's, if you look at our own lives and think about what we've been blessed with, especially in this region, especially in this community, I think it's incumbent upon us to give back. And so I think about that a lot of, it's really, Ken, to your point, it's really finding your way to give back. And that's different for everybody. And you may have some that you jump in and think, oh, this wasn't it. And that's okay. Because you still, for the time you were there, benefited that organization. But there will be a place for everyone, I believe.
I agree.
Just for future reference, that might have had deeper roots than just Spider-Man.
I do know that it's biblical, yes, but I like my Spider-Man quote. So there you go.
It's a contemporary reference.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Okay, fine, biblical, whatever. No, I agree. And I think that there are so many good leaders, but I'm here with these two gentlemen who have consistently shown up for this community, inspired so many of us, including me, not just in business, but where it matters most. And that's what true leadership looks like. So, gentlemen, congratulations on your lifetime achievement and your community service awards. I appreciate everything that you've done. We've got folks who may be listening to this and think, I would really like to connect with these guys. Can we ask how the best way for our listeners to engage with you or connect with you? Jack, I'm going to ask you first.
Our website is improvenorthfulton.org. It's just that simple, and there's a spot there where you can get more information.
Wonderful. So improvenorthfulton.org. And if you want Jack, just in the information block, say, hey, Jack, I want to connect with you.
Sounds great.
That sounds great. Wonderful. How about you, Ken?
You can find Renasant Bank on the web at renasantbank.com. But I will not be listed on the website like Jack is on his.
Got it.
So you can reach out to me at kdavis@renasantbank.com.
Perfect. I appreciate that very much. There's always folks who are inspired in some way, and there's so much from you gentlemen to be inspired by. I want to thank you both for being here with me and taking some time out of your very busy schedules for joining us today. The regional awards were clearly much deserved, and we're excited about all of the things that you have done, continue to do, and will be doing in North Fulton. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Kali.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure. All right. For my listeners, for more information about the programs, events, partnerships, all of the development opportunities that are available at the Greater North Fulton Chamber, we hope that you will visit gnfcc.com. And until next time, I'm Kali Boatright, and this has been the GNFCC 400 Insider on Business Radio X.